What's going on, my friends? Chris here. I want to bring you all an update today of Bitcoin. Right now we're sitting at around $36,000. We're up about 1.18%. And what I want to do is point out a few bullish things for Bitcoin, what's going on, and a few bearish things as well, guys, because we also have to be protective in tough areas like this. And I'm going to show you a moving average that I've been paying attention to. I've been doing some studying over the weekend here, and we're going to be looking at the 250 moving average. And what I wanted to mention to you all is that right now we are trying to hold that as support. So if you can see in yellow, this is the 250 moving average. And right now we've had quite a few wicks defending this area, and the reason why I feel as though this is important, if we step back here, we have been trading up above this 250 on the one-day time frame since April 29th 2020. So this entire run, essentially, we have been up above this 250. So right now we need to continue to defend this. If we don't defend this area, that could be cause for a break to lower areas, and lower areas we'd look at around that $30,000 range would be the first area. And then below that, if we do go a little bit lower, as I'd look down into the $20,000 range. And that's just how fast things can break. You know, if we zoom out and we take a look here, when we fully broke back in here, this 250, so when we definitively broke down through it, we back tested it, and then we lost it. So from that point to the bottom, you're looking at about a 60% drop once we got out of that area. Now say this was a spot where we drop down through, we go down 60%, that could put us back down around $14,000. And guys, I'm going to show you some of the bearish things here. Like I said, I got some bullish stuff I want to show you as well. We're going to look at both sides of this. But typically when we do break this, there can be that downside, just nasty movement, penetration to the downside. You know, this entire bull market last time, take a look. As we were trading this 250 all the way up until we lost it, we went down, we back tested it, and then we were done. And we dropped, you know, down into the abyss basically. When we got up above it here, we went from 5,000 up to 14,000. When we dropped below it, we were at 8,000. We ended up going down to around 39,000. Or excuse me, 8,000 down to 3,900. Here, we went from 8,700 all the way to the area we're at now, 35,000. So even if you went off these type of things, guys, you bought once we crossed up above it, sold once you got out, you would have a huge part of this move. And that's what you're looking for, because you're never going to get those tops exactly, and you're never going to get the bottoms exactly. It's easy in hindsight to look back and go, oh, I know that was the top. You know, markets change, things are different. If we take a look at this, you know, this has been almost like a complex head and shoulders type pattern. This was our neckline. We broke it right here to the downside. And now what we're looking at is to find that buying pressure and that support. We can see the wicks, so that is some buying pressure. I would still want to see some heavier volume to the upside in this range. But if we zoom out, you can see this large stick of volume with these long wicks. That also could be a bottoming volume climax to the downside. I like to look at that to the upside as well as the downside. Look back in this range here when we had climax volume that marked a top here. If we continue to work our way down through here, back in March, a lot of climax volume to the downside and then to the upside. You can see how high that stick is. We haven't had anything as high as that yet, but you can see these that clearly stand out. So you know, when I take a look now, and I'm going to show you something that's just a little bit more bullish here. If we take a look at Glassnode, and this can be total transfer volume from exchanges. So the metric description, the total amount of coins transferred from exchange addresses. Note that exchange metrics are based on our labeled data of exchange addresses that we constantly keep updating, as well as data science techniques and statistical information that changes over time. So when we're looking at this here, the last time that we had volume, I mean, obviously we didn't get as high over here, but this was back in March. Same deal, guys. Look how high the volume was of the total transfer volume from exchanges, people putting them back into wallets for security purposes. And that was all the way up around 275K, right up in this range. So back over in this range, we got up to between 100K and 125. That was also after a pretty big crash, right in that range. And now what you can see, we've had this big crash, and it came roughly on May 19th, 2021 was the highest amount when we had Bitcoin going back to people's hardware wallets and off the exchanges. So you can see how that was high again. So obviously we do have some type of accumulation taking place in that range. When we take a look, you know, even some of these higher numbers were after we had those big corrections. So we are looking at this as a bullish situation, excuse me. So guys, we bounce back to this chart here, and this is going to be on the 1-day time frame. Okay, I want to turn on some more moving averages, and then why we just have to be careful as well. We're getting squeezed between this 250 and this 200 that's acting as overhead resistance now. So, you know, there's a lot of bullish things going on, but there's also these bearish things that we have to pay attention to, because we wouldn't want another leg to the downside out of this, right? We've just had this weak little bounce, essentially, dead cat bounce, and then we have a whole nother leg to the downside. Because right now we have the 20 EMA pressing down upon us, the 200, the 50, and the 100. And you can see throughout this run, we were in this nice uptrend where we were holding these as support, and now they're acting as overhead resistance. If we get into the technicals, on the 1 day, we have a 14 sell, 10 neutral, and a 2 buy. Oscillator 0 sell, 9 neutral, and a 2 buy. Moving averages 14 sell, 1 neutral, and a 0 buy. If we get into the 1 week, it's a little more neutral here. We have an 8 sell, 8 neutral, and a 10 buy. Oscillators 1 sell, 7 neutral, and a 3 buy. Moving averages 7 sell, 1 neutral, and a 7 buy. So, you know, guys, we have to be protective in this range as well and be realistic that, you know, if we have something along the line of this, you know, down into these ranges here, if we're not able to hold these levels, that is absolutely something that could happen in this space. Now, the bullish case of this, if we clone here, we move to the upside out of something like this, this could take us back to a realistic range of a ton of resistance up here. That could put us back around, you know, 50 to 55,000 if we get a nice strong breakout of here. And we've been working in this little symmetrical triangle. So on the 1 day, trying to hold the higher lows. Then we get into the 12-hour, still trying to hold the higher lows, lower highs coming in, right? Then we get into the 4-hour. This is how I do it, guys. Take a look at all the moving averages, right? What's the current right now? The current is down. So the bulls are fighting against that. If we get into the 1 hour and take a look, you can see we're really in this range, really tight between about $40,000 and then to the downside $31,000. This kind of no man's land right now, floating in between this channel, because we could still even have a big break down to this area and find support before we get moving. You know, the bullish case, if we can get up through all these moving averages in this overhead resistance here, we'd try to get up to about $40,000 would be the range, and that could be pretty, you know, heavy overhead resistance. But you can see what's happened, guys, from all the way up here around that 65,000. Then when we had this relief rally, you can see this big empty void. We did not have a lot of volume there. Another dump to the downside, heavy volume, and now we're trying to get out of this. And we've had okay volume, but I would still like to even see more. But as volume gets tighter and tighter, that's going to show that a massive move is going to be coming, and we need to be ready for it, and you need to have a plan. You have to be ready, because right now, guys, you know, there's a lot of mixed signals taking place, and there's a lot of manipulation when people can move the market with a tweet. Anything can happen, and you have to realize that capital preservation is the #1 thing. So if you get some from these videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. God bless each and every one of you. Let me know what you think Bitcoin's going to do down low. Take care.